Good afternoon. I wanted to talk today about the ongoing heat wave that we have in California at this moment, and I'm going to focus particularly on the Bay Area when I speak of what's going on and what the general forecast is. So I wanted to show you first the map of what's going on with the wind speeds and the jet stream high up in the atmosphere. We're looking at wind speeds at 500 millibars, which is roughly 18,000 feet up in the atmosphere. And this shows you this shows you this big, see this big center of clockwise circulation here? This is a classic high pressure anticyclone, which is usually associated with heat domes this time of year. This is a classic heat dome, by the way. This is the center of circulation of the high pressure center. And notice what's happening with the wind here is it's pushing. See all these like blue and green shades here? These are the jet stream winds. And you can see that it is carving out a ridge right over the west coast here, and it is sending that, so any kind of cold air that tries to come in, any kind of weather system that tries to come in from the Pacific here is going to be diverted around this big dome of high pressure into the Pacific Northwest, BC, and then down into the Central Plains. But it is weather systems are currently not making it down to California, and we've had a lot of heating at the coast as well, because we do have the onshore winds off of that cold water. They usually keep the coastline cool, but we've had a significant weakening of those onshore winds at the coastline, and sometimes even turning slightly offshore in a northerly direction in the Bay Area particularly. And that allows the coastal locations that are usually in the 60s and 70s this time of year to climb sometimes well into the 80s, depending on where you are and what the wind flow is. So next map I wanted to show you is the 850 millibar temperature map. These are roughly the temperatures at 5,000 feet above the surface. This is a projection for 5 p.m. today per the NAM computer model, and you can see here, so this is in Celsius, 27 Celsius, that's about 81 Fahrenheit. At 5,000 feet, that's very warm. You mix that down to the surface, in areas where there is no significant marine heating, you get temperatures well into the 110s. Even coastal locations have been significantly warm lately due to that sea breeze not being as strong. But just look at the color codes here. You can see this massive dome of hot air. I'm gonna zoom out a little more so you guys can get a better idea. See, look at this. Look at this dome of hot air. And remember I showed the 500 millibar chart where the big ridge of high pressure here. Let's put this into motion here. See how this kind of hangs out? We're going all the way into Saturday now. And this is 11 a.m. Saturday Pacific time. See how the ridge is still hanging out over California, and this has been like day after day of heating. This is where it gets really dangerous. This is where you have to really take things seriously, because prolonged heating with not a lot of overnight cooling. Now let me show you the temperature map for let's look at California. Let's look at Central California. I'm gonna show you guys the minimum temperatures. This is the coolest it gets early in the morning. Looking at Friday morning, zooming into the Bay Area, see, look at all these 60s and 70s. And there are even some locations that are in the 80s and 90s. Look at this. There are locations in like some foothills that are got a max of 98 here on this minimum daily 2-meter minimum temperature here. I think Death Valley locations in Southern California are where you're gonna see that, but even in like most of the Central Valley, only down in the 70s. That's not a lot of overnight cooling, and that means it gets progressively hotter day by day, because like in terms, especially inside people's homes, if you don't have air conditioning, you're basically warmer each morning. You're a little bit warmer each morning. And so that allows the temperature to rise even a little bit higher each afternoon. And then it starts getting to levels where even your lower level, or even like a spot in your house that is usually much cooler than the other areas, will start to heat up as well. And it'll become uncomfortable even in the coolest spots in your home, which is why it's really important to check in on your most vulnerable community members during these heat waves, and make sure that they have adequate access to cooling and hydration, because this is something to be taken seriously, especially when you have a heat wave that is this prolonged. I mean, we're looking at look at how long this hangs out. Saturday, Monday, it starts finally breaking apart and we get more of a typical zonal flow, but look at this. This is still ridging here. You can still see an anticyclone very present here. This is close enough that it's still going to be pretty hot. Now let me just show you here. So I show you the minimums. Let's look at the maximums. So this is for Friday afternoon. Still over 110 in many valley locations here in California. Looking at the Bay Area, mostly 80s, 90s. Immediate coastline, Half Moon Bay, the very coolest spots of the Bay that are usually in the 50s. It's 65 Half Moon Bay, 76 at Monterey. Usually Monterey stays in the 60s this time of year. Still well above average even at the coast. It is not, in terms of actual temperature, it is still significantly cooler at the coast because there is enough of an onshore wind, but not as much of an onshore wind, so even the coast is heating up significantly. Friday, Saturday, not a lot of change. Still very hot inland, maybe a tad bit cooler at the coast, but still very warm, above average everywhere you look here pretty much. Sunday, Monday, we start getting a little more significant cooling into some of the Bay Area valleys here. Central Valley is still well into the hundreds, so you can tell here this is a prolonged event, and this is why we need to take this very, very seriously. Thank you.